Are entrepreneurs born, or can that gift or ability be developed in a person?
I think most of the time I would say they're sort of born with that competitive drive. Um, I would say that there's people who don't know that they're entrepreneurs because they've sort of, you see it in families. There'd be like, you know, the dad worked for a multinational, and so the son worked for a multinational, and the daughter works, and they've never really given that a shot because that's kind of the family business is we work for big companies. So now one of them lose their job and they say, "Hey, I'm now on the market to buy a business," and it's a pretty common situation. Um, you know, they really have to do a lot of self-analysis to see if they really can. I had two individuals that fit that criteria, and they looked all over for a business, and a client of mine was selling his business, and they got down to like a week before the closing, and they came to see me, and it's like we really need him to guarantee the first year's sales. And I said, well, that's not how this works. I said, he said he'd work with you for 6 months to a year, so he'll teach you the ropes, but he's not going to guarantee anything. That risk shifts at closing. It goes. That's why he's getting out. The risk is now yours, not his. That if he has that risk, you just keep the business. And he said we can't do it. And so, I don't know why they hadn't had that revelation before, but they just didn't happen until, literally the week before closing. Everything was set up, and it was. But what? Back to your original question, the person whose business that was, who obviously didn't sell that, he was what I call an accidental entrepreneur. The owner of the business came to him one day and said, "Hey, we're getting rid of the business. We're getting out of this part of the business. We're not going to do this anymore. If you want to stay in it, you can buy it, or we'll sell it to somebody else." And he called me. Actually, he was friends with me and my brother, and he called us both. And he goes, "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to buy this. I don't know if this price is fair. Can you walk me through it?" And he was scared to death. He's probably 50, and but he took to it. He was a good advice taker, and they gave him a good deal, and he ran it very well, made a lot of money, and made a lot of money when he finally sold it. So, would he ever have started that business on his own? No, there's no way. But I think at 50, he thought, "Hey, I'm never going to know as much about any other industry as I know about this. So I really need to give this a shot." And it worked.
What about all these colleges now, universities have these entrepreneur schools? If it can't be taught, and I believe there's a part of it that can't be taught. I think it's sort of in someone's DNA or isn't.
Yes.
If it can't be taught, what are we doing with entrepreneur schools?
It's funny. I never really thought about that. I guess it's, well, at least with entrepreneurship programs, it's in the business school. So you're picking up a smattering of disciplines, hopefully more of the hard disciplines than the soft ones. By that, I mean more finance and accounting than perhaps marketing and management. But I don't necessarily think if you want to be an advisor, that's probably a good place to start. If you wanted to be a financial analyst, I think that'd be a good place to start. It's kind of like, and this is overstating, but you can't go to school out of nowhere and say, I'm going to be a professional tennis player.
Right.
You're just, either you have something or you don't, right? And I think there's a little bit of that aspect to it because you can't teach somebody to be a good assessor of risk or of their own ability to tolerate risk. And that's a hallmark of an entrepreneur. And I think you, but then we should say, okay, if you really want to go to the entrepreneur program, there ought to be some sort of one of those, test. I don't know what it would be. One of those things where will you trade this for that? And if it's at the end of it, look, you're not a risk taker. So you might be an advisor to an entrepreneur. You may work for an entrepreneur, but you probably aren't going to be the person who starts or buys something and takes it off into the sunset.